Lab F, Advanced Functions Review. As always, the purpose of this nugget is to review the lab items, and the assumption is that you've taken some time to download the lab document and tried to complete the lab items on your own. What I'm going to show you are just sample solutions. They're not necessarily the only correct answers. So again, with this lab, I'm going to be working on my Windows 8 computer. This does have PowerShell 3 installed, of course, but everything I'm doing is going to be applicable in V2. I like this version of the integrated scripting environment better. So I'm going to use this. Let's get started. Let's see, what is this requiring me to do? I've got to build a couple of functions, two advanced functions, in a new module called OS Tools. All right, first of all, just to keep this easy on me, I'm going to go ahead and immediately save this. I'll put this in my documents. And let's see, new folder, Windows PowerShell, new folder modules, new folder OS Tools. It's not case sensitive, but it will show up correctly cased, or it'll show up cased like this in directory listings and things, module listings and so forth. So I want it to look nice. And then we'll save this file as ostools.psm1, PowerShell Module 1. What's important is that the folder name, OS Tools, match the file name, or this little puppy won't work correctly. So I've got to do a couple of advanced modules. I want both of them to accept one or more computer names on a computer name parameter. And that parameter should accept both pipeline input by value and by property name and should be mandatory. Okay. So let's start off by creating the first one, which we're told is get system details. Again, not case sensitive, but if you keep it pretty looking, then it'll show up that way in command listings and so forth. I'm always careful to do my opening and closing brackets all at once. And the first thing I'll do, after indenting of course, is start my parameter block. Again, I tend to always do the opening and the closing of those parentheses because it keeps me from forgetting. I also need to make sure, since this is going to be an advanced function, that I put commandlet binding up here at the top, right above the parameter block. So we have a mandatory, I'm a little more concerned about scrolling horizontally than I am vertically, so I do tend to break these parameter attributes up across lines like this, because when you get a bunch of them, it just looks neater. So we'll say that this is going to be value from pipeline, and then we'll get value from pipeline by property name. And you can see with some of these attributes, names being as long as they are, it wouldn't be difficult for it to start scrolling off to the edge. And since you're always going to be scrolling up and down, I don't want to also have to scroll back and forth. It just makes it tougher to kind of see the whole thing all at once. So next, that's all we had to do, right? Pipeline input by value by property name. So it's going to be multiple computer name. There we go. Now this is a good time to just take a quick look and make sure that there's no red squigglies. Any red squigglies I see means there's something wrong, and I don't see any. So here's an example though. If I took one of these out, see a little red squiggly pop up? Bad syntax. So we got the syntax fixed. And we've got two of these to do, but I'm just going to work on the first one first. This is going to accept pipeline input. That means I need at least a process block, and that computer name parameter could potentially hold one or more computer names at any given time, so I need a for each. And again, I'm very careful, you'll notice, every time I do one of these constructs in curly brackets, I do the opening and the closing. Another little trick, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, is to just put a little comment on the closings. To remind you what they actually close. So it's a little clearer. And once we start adding a lot of code to this and getting even more nested, it's useful to have that information. So we're querying from 3 classes. And this didn't say anything about adding error handling or anything difficult to it, so we'll get to that later. OS equals get WMI object class Win32 operating system STRM from the computer name that's in $computer. So that's just one computer at a time. Be careful with your tab completion there. You'll notice that I did the tab completion and it completed it to computer name. Computer name could possibly contain multiples. This is the one that's going to contain one at a time, so that's the one we want to play with. We can actually do some typo savings here, since we also want to query computer system and BIOS. So this will be computer system, this will be BIOS, computer, and Win32 BIOS. Now we just need to assemble all the information that we want to be in the final output. I'll do this with a hash table. Now this is something that I can't remember if I mentioned before, but it's a good time to mention. When you're using a carriage return after each of these values inside the hash table, the semicolon is technically optional. I tend to put it there just for completeness. With the semicolon, I could string this out all on one line. With the semicolon, I can also put each property on one line of its own, like I'm doing. So with the semicolon, I can do whatever I want. If you leave out the semicolon, then you're kind of trapped into doing it this one way, and just out of habit, I like that. Also, these keys don't technically have to be in quotation marks so long as the key name, like in this case, computer name, doesn't contain any spaces. I just tend to put them in quotes out of safety. That way I don't have to remember what the rule is. So let's tab in for this next one, which was going to be OS version. And the next one is SP version, which contains service pack major version. And with long property names like that, you'll see why I like to do one of these per line rather than kind of jamming them all together onto a single line. Again, for me, it's just all about readability. OS build. Then we'll get into the computer system. And after manufacturer's model. And all right, so in the instructions, it said to return $or underbar server as computer name. Here's what I've done, and here's why it's different. Here's why I'm going to change what I did. I have my computer name property, but I set it to the computer name I was contacting. Now, because this is WMI, it's going to accept IP addresses, DNS aliases, or any possible means of contacting a computer. I'm putting whatever was used to contact the computer into the computer name property. The instructions actually said to do that. And the difference is this is going to contain the computer's actual, really real NetBIOS name. So no matter what I use to contact the server, this is going to get me the real name. And you can see how in certain circumstances that might be valuable. You might want to know that information. And the last piece was BIOS serial, BIOS.serial number. And I need to make sure I get this little closing dude up there so he's not hanging out by himself. We'll create a new object for this. Give it the type name PS object. That's the object we want to create. The properties are going to be what we put into props, and then we will write him to the pipeline. And once you've created a few of these things, you'll start to realize that they all look alike. So much so that I'm just going to grab this entire thing, copy it to the clipboard, paste it, and my next function's name was get disk details. The parameter stays entirely the same. My properties here are going to change. I'm only querying one WMI class this time, I believe. So I'll just quickly change this. See, a little copy-paste action makes this a lot faster. This says I can query Win32 logical disk using either WMI or SIM. I'm going to do WMI since I'm already here. Logical disk. Now it does say I only want local disks, so I need to add a filter. Drive type equals 3 from whatever computer name. Now here's something a little bit different in this. I'm querying multiple computers, but I'm also getting potentially multiple disks. A computer can absolutely have more than one disk. I can't really work with a collection of things very easily. I need to take each thing one at a time, so I'm going to put a nested for each loop, for each disk in disks. And that means I'm going to have to close that for each loop. And everything in it needs to be indented. And so this has asked me to return the computer name. Now it's not asking me to get it from $server, so I'll just do my computer variable. It's asking me for the device ID, which we're going to return as drive. So while the individual details here are different, the structure of these functions tends to look very, very similar from one to the other. Next, I wanted free space and size, and these were supposed to both be in gigabytes to 2 places. So let's do this one first. Free space, disk.freespace divided by 1 gigabyte. Now I need to get this to 2 decimal places. The easiest way to do that is probably, at least right here, to use the format operator. 0 numeric 2 places -f, and I'll put my little math formula there. So this is going to execute this formula, fill it into the, because this is the first position after the -f operator, it's going to go into the first placeholder, which is number 0, and it's going to format this as a 2-digit numeric number if I don't drag the numbers around and mess up the syntax. Arg. I'm just going to paste that down here because it's going to look just like that for size. And then it looks like we're not going to need those two because the last one is free percent, which we want as a whole number with no percent sign. All right, free space. Oops, free percent. All right, this is harder, guys, because I'm not real good at the whole math thing. So hopefully this is the right formula. It's going to be $disk.freespace divided by $disk.size times 100 to get a whole number, because it says as a whole number. I have no faith in my ability to do that correctly. So let's say I had 100 free divided by a 200 disk size times 100, 50% free. Okay. That's right, just really not good at the math. Everything else, creating the object, outputting the object, good to go. We'll update this comment since I've got 2 for eaches. That'll just remind me that this ends the for each that's going through computers, since I put disk here for that one. Save. Let's try it out. Get module minus list available. Now your script ones are often at the top here, the ones that come out of your folder. There it is, OS Tools. Excellent. So import module OS Tools, and let's run get system details, computer name. You know what, let's see if it'll prompt me. I did mark that as mandatory. Yep. So we'll do Win7, client, DC, and just as a test we'll do localhost. All right, that's going to take a while to run all of those. Let's give it that time. All right, looks like it all came back. You'll see here's my Win7, here's client. At the end, remember I accessed client with localhost, but because I used underbar server, it's filling in the complete NetBIOS name. Now, we're not quite done because I think one of the things we were supposed to do, get system info, system details. Come on, tab complete for me. You can do it. Yeah, the help here is pretty lame because I was supposed to put full comment-based help for both of these. So let's get in here and tell you how I'm going to shortcut this for myself a bit. I'll put a comment block synopsis, description, parameter, because we only have one parameter on both of my functions, and we'll do an example. This is just going to be a quick way, copy, to get that basic structure, paste for both of them. So now let's fill this in. Gets, oops, don't need to tab there. Gets basic system. Hope they had spell check to the ISE one day. You really, in your production functions, should do a good job of detailing this help. I'm just going to kind of be lazy. Get system details. Now it's important when you do these examples, if I didn't mention this in the nugget, to put your actual example first. So I'll show you why in just a second, just to reinforce that. Let's do the synopsis here. So now when we save this, I'm going to go back here into the shell. It's important to me, important that I remove this. See, if I just do help again, I get nothing because the module is in memory now. So remove module, OS tools. Now if I ask for help, because I'm in PowerShell 3, I should not have to explicitly import that module again. I should just be able to ask for help, and it should load it up. So you see now I get my synopsis, I get my description. If I go for full help, I'll have the breakdown for each parameter showing me that it is mandatory. It is in position 1. It does accept pipeline input both ways, and I do get an example. And this is why you want your actual code example to be first, because when PowerShell constructs this help display, it's going to display that prompt as part of it. I didn't type that. So it's assuming the first line is actually a command. And if you want to get a little space in there, what you do is this. Let's try and do that remove and then ask for the full help again. Nah, see, it closes up that space. It trims it. No way to really do that. Let's test a couple other things. I know we did some pipeline parameter binding, so let's make sure that works first. Let's try it by value first. So let's do localhost and client just to keep this moving quickly. Get system details. So it took that way. Need to make a little CSV file to do this next bit, I think. That's probably the easiest way to do this. Or actually, it's not. You know what? If you want to be, heck with it. Let's be brave. Get AD computer minus filter star. Don't do this in production. I'm going to retrieve every single computer from the directory, and I'm going to create a computer name property out of the original name property. Let's just test that real quick. Load the Active Directory module. So there's all my computer names. Now there will be errors because I know it. I don't think I have all of those running. So you'll get to see what the errors look like. Let's just pop this to get system details. It's going to probably take it 3 or 4 minutes. I'm just going to hit pause real quick, let it run. Okay, so we're starting to get results, including some big ol' honking error messages. Let's see, how many computers were in the domain? 5. So here's DC, that worked. Here's client, that worked. Error message contains no computer name, unfortunately. So I'm going to guess that that was for member. And each computer that doesn't work is going to return 3 errors, right? Because we were going after Win32 operating system, computer system, and BIOS. So each of those is going to return an error before we get a blank hunk of output. Here's Win7. And I'm going to guess that we're waiting on error messages from the last computer, which is Win81. Now, I don't think this behavior, spewing 3 useless error messages, I mean, they don't have the computer name in them, so if you're just staring at the output, you don't know what failed. Spewing empty output, I don't think this is great behavior, but that's okay. This is actually giving us something to work toward so that we can fix that, and it is something we're going to be addressing in the next set of nuggets. So I'm just going to let this finish. See, the other thing is the way this is written, it takes a long time to error out because it has to error out 3 times, and every time takes like 45 seconds to a minute. So it is a little annoying. See, we're starting to get the error messages now. So I'm going to let this finish out. I'm going to see if I can Control-C my way out of it. And I still want to test the get disk details. So while this is running, let's actually just open up a new shell. Get disk details, tab completion, awesome. Tab completion, awesome. We'll just do this from client, see if it's working. Yep, 3%. Because I just did the math, I didn't do the trick with the formatting operator in here. It's got all those extra decimal places. So I would probably have to do this trick again, 0:N2 -F. Let's try that again. Remove module, get disk details, oops, OS tools. Yeah, there we go. That's better. So that's working fine too. Good on that one. Minimize this. Finally took my Control-C. So now you've seen all those. As you can see, building these advanced functions really does go kind of quickly once you start to develop the right habits. I certainly find that building them out of snippets or a little template is faster, gives me the basic structure very, very quickly. And you can jam all of these into a module, load them, unload them, easily put them in a central location where everyone can share it. Hopefully you were able to kind of get through a lot of that on your own in the lab, but if not, at least now you've got one example of how you could accomplish those tasks. So that's our quick review. Keep in mind, as always, just because you got a slightly different answer doesn't mean you were wrong. That's why I call these sample solutions and not answers. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.